Yeah, here we go again, Matthias. Welcome.
Hi,
So the
nice to be back here.
yeah, crazy March is over, and for you it
Mm,
was indeed crazy, but it was also in some kind it was also crazy for me because I almost completely lost track about all the updates. It was
mm,
so overwhelming, even being remote and just noticing it. And
hmm.
today it was also Power BI desktop update. The blog is not out yet, so I don't checked it out. But yeah, so how was it for you? What have you
Um,
seen? What can you tell about?
well, I mean, March was crazy indeed. You can probably hear from my voice, which is a bit rough still. I managed to come back from the States with a cold, which I'm still recovering
Oh,
from. But I'm doing okay. It was much worse this morning, so doing really
oh,
rapid
okay.
recovery right now. Um, and yeah, it was a lot of travel, a lot of preparation, a lot of talking, meeting people. All
Mm,
very good, just sort of draining your body and everything. So definitely couldn't do this every single month, but
okay.
I don't think that's on the cards right now. Um,
Yeah.
but certainly from a Fabric and Power BI point of view, definitely super exciting times. You know, lots of new stuff, um, exciting announcements. There was a new Power BI desktop update earlier today.
Mm.
Unusually early in the month, I have to say.
Yeah, it's very different every
Yes.
month.
So
In
yeah,
March they waited a lot.
exactly. So looks like there's one blog post already
Oh,
on the Power BI blog, which introduces the Copilot panel. So that seems to be
okay.
the one
Yeah.
big new addition to desktop.
Mm.
With everything else, we'll have to see
Yeah,
what
I
they
think some visual stuff
announce.
might be
Yeah.
come in because Miguel Myers made an interview about it, and
Mm,
yeah, when the update in March was actually more about your stuff
mm,
and all these APIs and
yeah.
development and Fabric mirroring of databases and wow, lots of stuff.
Mm. Yeah. So I looked into the preview options. I didn't see
Mm,
anything new there uh,
okay.
for the April release. Or at least I didn't see anything that wasn't checked, and normally new
Mm,
options would be unchecked by default. So yeah, there we go.
okay.
But obviously, last month we had Tyndall come in there, right?
Yeah.
Which was quite exciting, as you can imagine.
Yeah, and I already have tested out so with Alex. Also made from the community.
Mm-hmm.
So he was actually able to create a report from GitHub code without
Mm-hmm.
any, just from an empty dataset file
Mm.
without any report stuff. So quite cool, like Frankenstein.
Mm.
Franken create Frankenstein out of a report without any existing. And now I'm already thinking about we can have a library with customized visuals, like the ones that Code is always posting lots of scatter plots just for download with Timdal script, not Timdal, no, actually Visual scripts, because Timdal is for the data, but of course the measures, therefore Timdal is also important
Mm-hmm.
because the trick of Alex was actually to tweak the measures, like to say, okay, actual is actual, but
Mm-hmm.
what's inside actual can be asked by a prompt. So what's
Mm.
your primary fact table? And then like I think there are lots of possibilities we can expect from all this movement.
Mm.
And I think it's not a real secret that there will be some kind of better structure for the report too. It's already something that
Yeah, that's in the public
Rui
domain.
Romano, yeah,
It's owned by Rui, and he's
mm,
definitely talked about it. I
yeah,
mean, certainly at SQL Bits
mm,
publicly, as well as Fabric Conf a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, I mean that is extremely exciting, particularly as you say, with respect to being able to rationalize, what's actually in my report metadata. Can I automate the creation of it? Can I write scripts to modify stuff? It's super exciting just thinking about possibilities.
Yeah, so do you have some highlights to show?
Yeah,
Just
absolutely. So what I thought I'd do today would be to actually show everyone the demos I prepared
yes.
for FabricConf,
Yeah, I was
which
hoping for this.
yeah, which
Nice.
was a lot of work on my end, but was really worthwhile and added a bunch of pretty significant updates into PBI tools. So very keen
Yeah.
to show that to a wider audience, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. I'm very keen to see it, and I hope that some viewers, finally, inhale all the stuff and then spread the word how valuable CI/CD is in a BI context.
Awesome. So let me go ahead and
Yeah,
share my
just
screen.
share your screen. I will bring you in.
Share screen. Share screen. Screen 3. Here we go. Right. So you should see
Yeah,
a
here
GitHub.
it is.
Yeah, there we
Yes.
go. Right. Awesome. So that's a private repo, as you can see. So if you
Oh,
don't watch now, you won't see that. Also, what I'm showing in terms of PPI tools, that's a private build right now. So that's not something I've released publicly yet, but
cool.
should hopefully get people excited and eager. So two main features. Let's start with number one. So if we look in here, so this is our declarative manifest, which is unique to PBI tools and allows us to basically define our deployment logic in a very structured and also readable way. Also allows you ultimately to basically copy paste your deployment logic and reuse it for different projects. Most of what's in here is I don't want to say old, but has been around for a while. But what I wanted to point out is actually this. So with respect to dataset deployments or semantic models, as we call them now, BPI tools now integrates BPA, which is the Tableau Editor Best Practice Analyzer. As you can see as well, it also allows you to reference a web source for your rules. So if you're not familiar with that particular URL, it's the Microsoft Analysis Services repo, which is public on GitHub. And Michael Kowalski from the CAT team maintains this BPA rules JSON file, which has become more or less an accepted standard with respect to best practice rules for tabular models. So definitely something to check out. It's being maintained and updated and added to constantly. And there are also a couple of blog posts actually on the Power BI blog with respect to what the rules do and how to get started with it. So pretty official stuff. And if you think about CI/CD and CI in particular, the ability to automate testing is really crucial, right? You can't do CI as in continuous integration, where sort of people contribute changes and it automatically feeds into a shared branch without the ability to actually automate your quality checks. Any manual component in that process basically totally negates the CI and no longer makes it continuous. So in that respect, it was a really needed addition to what PBI Tools does around CI/CD. It's pretty straightforward, as you can see. So we can basically declare any number of sources. So as you can see, they can be HTTP sources, but they can also be local files. So if you want to maintain your own private enterprise rules file, you can have them as a relative path. And you can combine them. So you could use Michael's file in addition to your own local ones. So all of that is possible. And then down here, we can specify at which point. So what is the bar? What's the threshold for rule violations to actually turn into a failure as far as your CI/CD process is concerned? There are three options: never, error, and warning. So never means even if there are errors coming from the BPA run, they will be logged, but they won't actually fail our process. So, the others should be self-explanatory. So let me just show you. I've done a run on this just half an hour ago, as you can see. So let's just have a look at what we're getting here. So this is a CI run using GitHub Actions that's already happened. And we can see on the summary page of this action, we have those annotations, which actually show us 3 errors, 7 warnings, 7 notices. And we can see very neatly outputs from BPA. So here, for instance, format strings should be provided for measures. In Michael's rules file, this particular rule is marked as causing an error. So if you basically have a measure without a format string, it will trigger an error. And based on the PBI tools setting, that may actually trigger a failure of your entire CI run. So we've got that. We can see there are a few informational ones. So those are basically hints or notices. They're not critical. And then we also have some warnings. So for instance, foreign keys should be hidden. That's a warning. Again, that's based on Michael's rules file, but obviously can be modified and customized by each team, depending on their particular needs. And then the next cool thing is, we're still on the summary page here, this is actually a hyperlink. So if you click on this, it opens up your detailed deployment log, which is generated by PBI tools, and it shows exactly which items in your model that particular warning refers to, right? So we can actually see there are 5 columns which triggered the foreign keys should always be hidden warning. And if we scroll through here, we can see the same is in place for everything else. Plus, on top of that, we also have a description. Again, this description comes from the rules file. So here, as an example, to speed up processing time and conserve memory after processing, attribute hierarchies should not be built, and so on and so forth. So there's a really detailed explanation here, including even a link to Chris Webb's blog, as you can see. And so this is soon going to be available in a public PBI tools release. As you can see, in terms of configuring it, super straightforward, right? Just reference where are your rules files and specify what the behavior should be in terms of actually handling certain errors. So as you've seen, this one has succeeded. So we were actually getting a green here, right? And this one did go ahead and deployed the data set and ran a refresh. Now, I only did that for demo purposes, right? So in practice, we would not want this to succeed, and I can just demo that what we'd need to do. So if I go in here and if I change this mode to say error, which basically means if we have at least one error coming out of my BPA rule check, the entire run should fail and the pipeline should not succeed and should definitely not proceed to actually deploy anything into our workspace. So I've just changed that in my manifest. I'm going to commit this. So changed BPA fail mode to error. There we go. I'm going to commit this, and as soon as I click sync changes, it's going to push this into my GitHub repo, and my GitHub repo is set up completely automatically. It will automatically run this pipeline. I don't have to do anything else, right? So this is true CI/CD here in action. So if I now go back and find the repo and go to actions and just do a refresh. Here we go. So we can see we actually have a pipeline run that's currently active, which was triggered from the update I just made. And we would now expect this to fail because obviously we have, what was it, 7 or so errors, and so it shouldn't actually make it across the bar. So just initializing, connecting to the workspace, running BPA rules, and there we go. Right. See, it's now failed. So if I go to summary, I can see this did not succeed, and I or somebody now needs to go in and make sure that the pipeline succeeds for the integration process to go ahead. And if I want to see why it failed, I can click in here and then basically see down here, and I can see BPA rules failed with 9 errors and 34 warnings. So there we go. If I go to my pull request, I can also see that this pull request, which I just committed to, is showing up as a failure, right? So this one right now cannot go ahead because my automated CI checks have had a failure in them. So there we go. So this is one big update, which I'm quite excited about, particularly since this is actually running Tableau Editor's BPA on Linux, which is something that's never been done before, right? So anyone who's previously integrated BPA from Tableau Editor into pipelines had to run this on Windows by basically downloading the entire Tableau Editor executable and running that one as a separate process. I worked with Daniel to basically port the BPA portion of Tableau Editor and make this one cross-platform so I can fully integrate it into PBI tools. So that's a world first application of BPA.
Amazing stuff. I already have some questions, but if you like to present anything more,
Yeah, no, I'm
you
more
can
than happy
also
to.
wait, because for me it's very interesting. It's kind of a game changer because I think that maybe the lack of adoption of development pipelines was resulting from the need to test manually. And like when you an agile BI development, you don't want to test it in a test when you need it very fast in production. And here we can automate it. So, but is this is only done when you deploy by Power BI tools, right? It's not like a monitor job when somebody syncs it from a workspace. So I'm already thinking about yeah, maybe to check some violations by self-service users that are changing the data set in a workspace.
Well, I mean, it's completely possible
Mm.
for this to be integrated with Git integration. So if you use Fabric Git integration, where you basically have a connection, a direct connection between your workspace and an Azure DevOps repo, it would be completely viable to put a PPI tools pipeline into that ADO project to run every time an update is actually pushed.
Okay,
And
and
with Git integration, remember Git integration works both ways, right? So you can push into the workspace, or you can push from the workspace into your repo. So it's a great idea. I've never thought about this, but this is all possible and wouldn't even require any changes with respect to PPI tools. It would just require configuration. That's already possible today, and you could completely automate the testing. Now, what you wouldn't get, and that's really important to think about. So this kind of test, where it's true CI/CD, is basically a guard before anything ends up in your workspace, right? So this basically
yeah,
guards any changes from making it into from being deployed into a workspace, and ensures that all your quality checks succeed. And if they don't, the deployment is blocked, which is precisely what happened here, right? If you do it the other way around, obviously you're starting off from something that's already in a workspace. So you need to think about, well, technically it's possible, but what am I actually achieving here?
yeah, okay.
Am I still guarding anything, or am I actually just doing a test after the fact, right? So it's probably something that needs a bit more thinking in terms of
Yeah,
what could be a real world application here.
yeah, I see like the both have some use case for me. So this one is more like for real corporate data sets where you don't have to deploy anything what's not checked. And the other way would be like, yeah, some kind of enhanced monitoring. Like when you are administrator of thousands of workspaces and you want to see the violations, then you cannot do it manually. You have not even a clue what's happening. And now through like central GitHub instance, you can check, okay, there are some warnings. And I think this would be a use case not to error, but just to put the logs to still deploy, but yeah, to have some kind of a summary and prioritization for the admins to work and improve the data models. So for me, both use cases have their
I'll
standing
think
there.
about it. I mean, one pattern that's been talked about a lot lately, and which I think is even promoted in the official Fabric documentation, is a combination of Git integration with deployment pipelines, where
Yeah.
I should really show a visual right now. I just don't have one ready for that. But where you basically have three stages: dev,
Yeah.
test, and prod. And only your dev stage is connected to ADO via Git integration. And all other deployments actually happen via deployment pipelines. And I think in this case, you could think about a ADO pipeline where those kinds of tests run, triggered from changes coming from the dev workspace. And the pipeline will then determine whether or not a deployment pipeline deployment is triggered for those changes to go to the next stage, right? And that would make complete sense and would be very feasible. And in fact, now that we're talking about it, I think that is even something I may want to consider for PPI tools.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, lots of ideas again, but obviously great stuff. And you told it's coming soon for Power BI tools, and
Indeed.
it's like the world premiere of automated testing in Power BI. Great.
So let me show you something else then, unless
Mhm.
there were other questions.
No, I think there's some. I've seen some clapping smileys and all this stuff, but no questions, just appreciation.
Awesome,
So you
cool.
can go
So
on.
coming back to the project, what we have here is actually PBIP, right? Fantastic new format replacing PBIX, um, uh, made for source control and VS Code. And this private version of PBI tools has support for PBIP. So that's the other big new feature, which in fact lots of people have been asking about for a while now. So it was about time for me to catch up here. So let me show you what that looks like. So I've got a second deployment profile in here. And so this one has a new mode, which is Fabric Report. And that means it actually uses the new Fabric REST APIs to deploy the report definition files. So that's brand new. It's a whole new way of deploying. And we can see there's a relative reference here to the sales.report folder. Everything else is similar to what people know from PBI tools. So, we're still authenticating with a service principal. We've got parameters, and we have our environments defined. Now, the one thing that is new and pretty exciting is this. So if you think about a report definition in PBIP format, we always have a dataset reference in there, right? And there are two flavors of dataset references, by path and by connection. By path means that we have a relative path linking to another local folder. By connection means we basically have a connection string linking to a workspace, to a Fabric workspace. And so first of all, the by path. So this one here, if we look at this, so this is a by path PBIP, right? Which basically references the sales.dataset in the same project. Now, that kind of project cannot be deployed as is. So the Fabric APIs do not support bypath references. And even if you use Git-Integration, and if you deploy a bypath PBIP into a workspace, Git-Integration will always convert it to a by connection and will actually store it internally with the workspace reference to the dataset. So that is one thing that needs to be taken care of if you want to automate the deployment. But it also opens up fantastic opportunities, because now that we basically need to generate our by connection reference, we can also parameterize it, and we can create some logic which determines, for instance, based on your environment, which dataset do I want to connect to. So in the old world of PBIX and PBIT, sort of rebinding a report to a different dataset has been a common problem, and lots of people struggled with that, or came up with scripting solutions. PBIP makes that super straightforward, and PBI tools, as you can see, has a very neat declarative way for you to put that dataset reference in here. So I'm basically saying, this is my report deployment profile, and I'm saying for the development environment, use this workspace and this model name for my dataset reference. And what PPI Tools does is it will actually resolve this one into a complete and valid PPI Power BI connection string, right? So if you were to hand edit the PPIR reference file, it would be very complicated because there are lots of GUIDs and connection strings and whatnot you need to fill in there. PPI Tools makes it super easy and straightforward. All you need is the name of the workspace and the model name, and everything else is auto-generated. And as you can see, this particular syntax is one that uses runtime parameters to basically refer, in this case, to this variable, right? So there we go. So let's look at this. If I go back to my, if I go back here and go to my previous actions, I can see I've had a deployment here, and that one basically it's pretty straightforward here because there isn't really very much happening. So we basically resolved this workspace for our report, that workspace for our data set. We then resolved the data set itself, and we ended up with a report that's bound to a data set in a completely different workspace, even though my local sources have a local data set. So if I just grab this URL and go to my tenant, here we go. That should be my report. Yep, got that. And if I go to lineage view, I can see how this report is actually linked to a semantic model in a different workspace, which, by the way, is not something you can achieve using Git integration unless you hard code the connection string. So this ability to, first of all, deploy from PPIP sources, but then also to dynamically determine which data set to link to, that is unique, and that's new in this upcoming PPI Tools release. We can also look at this in action. So just as a reminder, all those demos are for GitHub, and we did for FabricConf, we did that intentionally to basically show that whilst Git integration currently works with Azure DevOps only, you can target any CI server with external tools. And so here, this is my YAML file for the report dev environment. And as you can see, the trigger in this case is one for the develop branch. And this pipeline will only run if we push any changes into develop that happen to have updated files inside the sales report folder, right? So we can easily do that. First of all, let me switch to the develop branch. Which I can't. Here we go. Right, so got that. Secondly, let me make sure my latest updates are available here. So I'm just going to take this one, and I'm going to merge Here we go. Okay. So the only change we have is in our deployment manifest. That's expected. If I now go and open this report in desktop and just make an update. Here we go. It's just loading. Okay. Right. Let me. Let's give this one a background color. It's a silly change, but at least it's one that's very noticeable. Background. There we go. Oh, no. Background. Here we go. That's the one. Yeah, cool. So let me just save that. Okay, so saved. I should now see a bunch more changes in here. I can ignore everything that's in dataset. It's expected that some stuff will be sort of reformatted. So report.json is my report definition. Everything else is just noise, and I don't have to worry about it. And so if I just commit the report changes and then push this, here we go, to my develop branch, it will trigger the report pipeline. So let's go back here. Let's go to actions, and we can see, here we go. So we've got a pipeline that's currently running, and one very neat thing about the new Fabric REST APIs is they're extremely fast. So this kind of report update using Fabric APIs normally just takes fractions of a second. And in fact, as you can see, I'm still talking and it's already done. This is super exciting in terms of performance as well. So if I now go back here and basically open up this report, I can see this is the one which we just updated locally and then deployed via Git and PBI tools. Again, just to reiterate, whilst my local PBIP has a relative path reference to the dataset, this one has a cloud reference going into a completely different workspace.
Oh, then that was really fast. Okay, great stuff.
So yeah, there are a few things for me to wrap up in terms of making this a public PBI tools release, but we're not far off now, and so
yeah, that was already great. And yeah, I noticed from Jake, it wasn't pushed on StreamYard, but it was a question on LinkedIn about if there is a way to build a validation other than deploy to service. That would be good for CI, but I think what you're doing is it's actually it, right?
are we talking about reports now?
Yeah, yes, I would think so.
Right. So obviously, I did show automated testing for semantic models earlier with Tablet Editor BPA, right? We don't quite have an equally established tool or system in place for reports. It's very early days for that. There is NATS PBIX Inspector. Let me just bring this one up.
Mm. And actually, John Kursky himself was also watching. So I see it from the comments, but he has no question.
Awesome. So we've got PPI inspector. I thought, yeah, I think the internal name is PPX inspector. So Nat, who is a Microsoft employee, actually got inspiration from what Mike had done around BPA and created a tool that's quite similar with. Let's see if we have an example here. Yeah, here we go. So this is an example what those rules look like. They're basically doing JSON tests and comparisons, and it's a very, very promising start, I'd say, and would be very nice if this approach would be picked up by the wider community for us to ultimately establish something similar to Michael's standard BPA rules. Yeah, it's, I mean, right now this really requires community contributions and people feeding in here. I, from a CI/CD point of view, can't wait to have something that can easily be or equally be plugged in. Very, very keen for that. Absolutely.
So there's a thing. There's not a lack of ideas like to have enforce some company rules or visual standards and to make sure that the reports are compliant to corporate design. Lots of use cases, but yeah, today we've seen like very basic and important stuff to check the data set and the first test automation in Power BI. Awesome. Okay, I will check if there are any new questions, but I think that's it. If they are still, then just write something, Jack. But I think it should be fine. There are lots of. Does it support Timdal and Timsel? I think yes, right? So
yes.
because Power BI Tools is from both, who's actually born in Timsel and now it's Timdal, and you're even co-creator of Timdal. And the API is more Timdal, the Fabric API, I think.
So let me just double check. I think. Oh, yeah, this one is already Tyndall, actually. And in fact, because PPI Tools is completely agnostic, you know, it will work with Timsel and Tyndall sources. It doesn't even require any configuration changes. It's the exact same deployment manifest. It will automatically figure out what format it's dealing with. And obviously, since the March release of Power BI Desktop supports Tyndall in PBIP, we've got it now a demo here.
Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, again, some likes here. And if you have any questions, just now. So otherwise, we will round it up. And yeah, if you have some urgent announcements, Matthias, you can tell. And then afterwards, I think it's we can make the day now.
There was certainly no urgent announcements
Okay,
other than
all right.
this will
Okay, so
see the public light.
So I will keep an
in the
eye
next few weeks.
at the Power BI desktop release, and maybe there's some hidden gems that we don't have noticed yet because the block is not there yet. Yeah, thanks again for the great insights. I'm really looking forward when it's finally published, the test automation, and yeah, lots of appreciation from the viewers. Thank you for viewing. Lots of viewers today, according to the numbers. And yeah,
Awesome.
see you
Thanks,
next
everyone.
time. We'll definitely come back.
Yep. Okay. Bye.